Hi, welcome to Growing Homemakers. My name is Sarah. So we are in the Pantry Challenge. We are in week 4. And what? We are obviously starting to run out of things. I know, Bubba. So the Pantry Challenge, I find, is a good way for us to get some recipes of making stuff we typically buy in the store and making them from scratch, and maybe being able to do that when the Pantry Challenge isn't going on, and also being able to have the grace, give myself grace. Yes, Bubba. Give myself, no, not. You ate all your cheeses. Do you want us to cut you some more? Giving myself the grace to, if I can't make this stuff from scratch all the time, knowing that it's okay if I have to buy it from the store, but also making an effort to make it from scratch and keep it in the pantry in stock so we don't have to buy it from the store. We ran out of crackers. My son loves crackers. He loves pretzels. My dad said to me the other day, he goes, pick up some pretzels. I was running to the store. No, we had our Azure drop. And he said, pick up some pretzels. And I was like, LOL, no, it's not. We're in the Pantry Challenge. And my dad goes, well, figure out how to make pretzels. I go, but don't we have crackers? And
we want pretzels.
And he was like, no, we're out. And so I was like, okay, I'll figure out how to make some crackers. And then I was talking about it last night, and my mom goes, oh, did you see my cracker book? Oh, don't stick your hands in that, Bubba. That's icky. Here, have a couple pieces of these. Have some cheeses. There you go. And she had pulled out the other day easy homemade crackers. I had not seen it, so maybe she'll do a recipe also with some crackers and try a different variety. But last night, everyone was asleep. I was scrolling through videos, little relaxed time, and a sourdough Cheez-It recipe popped up. And so this is what I'm going to try. I will post somewhere in here. Yeah. Oh, you need milk? Hold on. All right, I'm recording again. So I was scrolling through the videos, and a sourdough Cheez-It recipe popped up. And I will put somewhere in here, I will put the website that it's from, and maybe I'll post the link in the description if I can. But yeah. But until then, I just wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I'll read it to you. So I needed, oh, and also let me say, I prefer to weigh out ingredients if the recipe gives weights. It's just a more accurate way to do it. If you don't have a scale, you don't want to take the time to weigh it out, that is 100% fine. This recipe had weights and measurements. So I kind of like that from a recipe. Hi, Bubba. So this one called for 226 grams or 8 ounces of shredded cheddar. Mom makes cheese. She had a Gouda. It's got a little tang to it. And so I think that'll be great in these crackers. So that is what I am using. 85 grams or a heaping 1/3 cup of flat sourdough starter. Yeah. My sourdough starter is flat. It's so flat that it was starting to get hooch on it. So I poured the little liquid off the top and mixed it up. And then weighed out the starter. Papa. It also calls for... Yeah. The recipe also calls for 28 grams, 2 tablespoons unsalted butter chopped. Because it says to mix everything together in a food processor, I assume it wants the butter cold. 5 grams or half a tablespoon ranch powder. We do not usually keep ranch powder in the house. We might buy it if we need it for something, but we did not have it. I made some. I actually used the recipe off of, I think it's called Scratch Pantry. It's the woman that does the Acre Homestead YouTube videos. So I actually cut the recipe in half because it does make a lot. And because one of our goals throughout the years has been to grow as many of our own herbs as possible, I actually put this in the food processor, measured it out, put it in the food processor, and gave it a handful of pulses because our herbs are not as fine as what you would find in the store. The onion I use is freeze dried, and that is just a very small dice. It is not ground or anything like that. So I did pulse everything to give me that kind of seasony consistency. So it calls for 5 grams to half a tablespoon of ranch powder, 5 grams or 1 teaspoon of salt, 65 grams or half a cup of all-purpose flour. So we do not keep all-purpose flour in the house. We always buy bread flour, use it as all-purpose flour. It goes in cookies, pies, biscuits, these crackers, whatever. And then flaky salt for the top of the crackers. I also, because I'm not great at straight lines, I have a ruler. And I found, I think this is for ravioli. If you watched the previous week, we actually did of ravioli from scratch. So I found my nifty dandy, handy little roller here. From here to here is 1 inch. So what I will do is set this down on the cracker when I get it rolled out, and then come along with the perforated or the little decorative edge, and then my crackers should all be uniform so that they all bake correctly. I like to measure everything out to start. Does it make me have more dirty bowls? Yes. Does it make sure I don't forget anything in adding it to the recipe? Most of the time. Sometimes I'll forget a butter that I softened in the microwave and not add it to the recipe or something like that. So I like to make sure I have everything sitting out. So let me show you those. And I apologize, I did not use all clear bowls, but here's my flour. Here's my sourdough starter. Here's my mom's Gouda cheese. Here's my ranch dressing and salt. When I add, if I have a recipe that calls for lots of herbs, and I'm trying to, because I have the baby, or the dogs go crazy, because the mailman comes, whatever it might be, if I am measuring stuff into the same bowl, all my herbs, I like to not mix them in. So I'll actually dollop, like if I have oregano, put oregano here, parsley here, and not mix it together or layer it on top, because if I get sidetracked, when I come back, I can kind of look in my bowl and see what's in there and know where I stopped. So that's why you can see the ranch dressing powder on the bottom, the extra salt that it needed on top. The ranch seasoning does have salt in it, but this recipe does also call for more salt. So that is all of my ingredients, I believe. Butter, ranch, salt, flour. Yes. I almost forgot, because I put it in the fridge so it was cold, the butter. Here is my chopped butter. Now I have to use the food processor on the counter because the island does not have electricity running through it. Ignore the mess that's on the counter. My My food processor is actually currently not clean, and that is simply because I made the ranch powder mix prior to measuring out everything for the crackers. And since I'm putting ranch powder in there, it's pointless to clean it out. It's just a little extra seasoning in the crackers. So I'm just going to blend this until it comes together, and hopefully that will be enough. I'm just going to go by guess. I'm going to plug it in first. So here, I can show you is what it looks like. It's still a little crumbly, but when squeezed, it does come together. It does, yeah, it comes together well. It smells absolutely amazing. So all I'm gonna do here is pull out my plastic wrap. Yeah, I really wish you could smell this. It smells really good. The sourdough, the ranch seasoning, or the mix that I made, the cheese. I actually want it to kind of be square shaped because it says to break them in half or split the dough in half and roll out in 2 separate pieces. So in order to do that and to hopefully have it keep its shape when I'm rolling out so I don't end up with a circle, it'd be good to start with a square as much as I can. So there it is. I'm going to throw it in the fridge probably for at least 20 minutes. In all honesty, it's probably going to be closer to an hour because about that time I'm going to have to feed the piggy. And I'll probably do that prior to doing this. And then I will start rolling them out. So I pulled them out of the fridge. I fully read the recipe after I read part of it. And so what it says is you can either roll them out on a silicone mat or a piece of parchment, because I was going to just roll them out on the wooden countertop. And I decided not to. I put the silicone mat down, I put some flour on it, and then I finished reading the recipe and realized that parchment probably would have been a better idea, because once you roll it out and cut the Cheez-It squares, you're supposed to leave and bake it whole. You put the little holes in it, you do the whole thing, but you don't separate the crackers and put them on the sheet pan. So I would have been better off on a piece of parchment, got it rolled and cut, and then I could have slid that piece of parchment onto my baking sheet. Now what I'm going to have to do is roll it out, transfer it to the baking sheet, try and cut it on the baking sheet. Actually, I could just transfer it, but we'll see how this goes. And I also have to, if you have more than one sheet pan, you want to get them all rolled out and on the sheet pans before you put them in the oven, because you bake them and then it says leave them sit in the turned off oven to fully finish drying out for a crispier, drier Cheez-It cracker. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop you down so you can kind of watch me roll these out, and we'll see how it goes. So the recipe says cut it in half and only roll out half at a time. It is sticky, so I'm definitely going to need the flour on here, and then just a little bit on top. She says the thinner the better, so I'm just going to keep going with this, and I'm going to try and keep it into a square-ish rectangle shape so that I don't end up with pieces that aren't the same size. We'll see how successful I am with that, but that is going to be my attempt. And And the recipe says it's supposed to make 135 crackers. We'll also see how close I get to that. That'll tell me if I rolled them out thin enough or not, depending on how many crackers we get out of it. While I'm rolling, I like to kind of feel all parts of the dough because I don't always roll evenly. So if one side feels a little thicker, try and concentrate on that side. Like my ends always get thinner, or the edges always get thinner than the center. So I'll go a little heavier in the center and then a little lighter on the edges.
Clean up regardless.
Good idea. There we go. I should have thought of that since I used to do that when I was baking in the hospital.
Look at me being all helpful on crap.
So I'm not going to worry. I got some split pieces here. I'm not going to worry about it, but I am going to start at my flattest edge. Set my ruler there, remembering that this, if you have a ruler, because you don't do straight lines like I do as well, make sure your ruler is roughly an inch thick. And then I have my pretty decorated thing, so I'm going to give it the Cheez-It edge. I apparently can't cut a straight line even when I have a straight line. And I'm trying to do this without putting too much pressure on the ruler, but still keeping it in place. If you don't have one of these, you could easily use a pizza cutter. The fancy edge isn't important. It's the cutting them that matters.
It's not on.
Oh, shoot. I have a feeling with how good these smell, even if it makes 135, they're not gonna last long in this household.
What are you trying to say?
That's one of the problems with having 4 people in the house that like to eat. Well, 3.5. My husband is not a big food person. I mean, he obviously eats because it sustains him, but he doesn't enjoy food like we do.
Oh yeah, he is definitely not like us.
So, although he does like snacky foods like this. But this would be one of those recipes if you don't want to have to make it every couple days and it's one of the only crackers you're keeping in the house. You would want to spend a half day or whatever and make as much as you can fit in your oven at one time. Like I said, you want because you have to leave them sitting in the oven, this is something you probably want to only make enough of for one batch, unless you don't mind taking up your oven the whole day. Alright, so while I roll out the next one, I'm going to have Papa over here count the Cheez-Its to let me know how many we got. Oh, I'm also going to enlist him. So what you're supposed to do, you have a chopstick, and you're just supposed to go in there right in the center. Oh, and poke them. So I'm going to have Papa do this for me while I roll out the other one, while also counting how many we have to see roughly how close I'm going to get to that 135. And then I'm going to work on the next one. What did you say?
And this makes for exciting, fascinating content. Watching a guy who is sitting at a table watching Anthony Bourdain, no reservations, on his telephone. Telephone? Can I call it a telephone? On his phone, poking holes in the middle of dough.
Well, if you don't talk, I can just speed it up.
So there's 88 full crackers on this sheet. And then there's schnibbles that we're going to test all the way around the edges.
Oh, this one's actually, that one's a little bigger.
I got to tell you, it's too bad we don't have smell-o-vision, because these things smell really, really good.
And it's really promising because we have not had much success previously when we were trying out sourdough crackers. It actually made us kind of stop doing it because we couldn't find one we liked. The problem might just be, you know, when your cracker just tastes like bread, it's a little weird, I think, was part of our problem. And there was no flavor to it. So the problem just might be that we weren't seasoning them enough for any of us to enjoy them. So I rolled mine a lot, or quite a bit thinner. She wants you to get as thin as possible, and she said it makes 165. We got to 188. So I rolled them a little thinner than she recommends for the thickest that you want them. So I'm hoping that's promising. So we're going to get them on the sheets of parchment. I'm going to get them in the oven. I'll show you a quick little video of when the timer goes off, and then I'll show again once we've left them in the oven. I don't think the recipe specified how long to leave them in the oven for once you turn it off. Just said to get them crispy and drier. So we're going to play with that. Alright, timer just went off. Let's see what they look like. Now, because we did 2 trays, we were supposed to rotate them and flip them halfway through. Oh, sorry. I did not do that. I did that at the 3-minute mark. Now ours do not look as golden and toasty as the recipe. And I believe that is because we didn't use a orange cheddar cheese. We used my mom's undyed white Gouda. So now what we're supposed to do is just leave the door cracked. Turn the oven off. And let them sit in there while the oven cools down. And we will see how they are after that. Okay, so here is the finished product. You can see this pan is a little darker than this pan. These are not crunchy.
And we don't know why.
My guess is either they're not as thin, these are not as thin as these, or I was supposed to, when doing multiple pans, you're supposed to rotate your baking sheets halfway through. I did not do that. I forgot to do it because it wouldn't be me if I didn't forget to do something while I was doing a recipe. And so I think that might have had something to do with it, because the one on top has better airflow probably than the one on the bottom, or vice versa. They have good flavor. I also...
Weird, that one was crunchy.
Yeah. I also forgot to sprinkle them with sea salt before I put them in the oven. They are salty enough without it, because the ranch dressing,
The cheese,
the salt itself that you add in there. But I think that little bit of salt that would hit your tongue or your palate when you put them in your mouth would have been nice. Overall, I think they're really good. These are probably going to have to go back in the oven a little later once we're done using the oven for dinner. And we're going to rebake them.
let's see if they'll crunch up.
Yep, dry them out more. And then, and they have good color on the bottoms. They toasted up really nicely on the bottom. But we will make them again. They're definitely yummy. I always like to edit a recipe after. Hold on, let me turn. I always look for recipes online. I try to make them as true as I can in our household as possible the first time. And then the recipe evolves to my own recipe where I will change and tweak things from there. So that is what will happen with this recipe. Yeah, Papa. But it's really good. Oh, and no, I can't remember. I think I told you I'd posted somewhere. I thought I remembered the name of the website this was on, but my brain's farting on it right now. But yeah, it's a really good recipe. We will make it again. And this is our pantry challenge. How to make something from scratch instead of buying it from the store video. Please like, share, subscribe. Share with your friends. Go ahead onto our Facebook page and follow us. And check us out on YouTube. And we will see you later. Bye.